Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Elite Dangerous with Down to Earth Astronomy. Today I have quite a special video for you. I have both Stephen and Bruce from the Frontier Community Management team. Hello guys and welcome.
Hello, thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for taking the time to drop by. I've invited you today because I wanted to have a quick chat with you, a more like casual chat about all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, the stuff that we don't see during a beta period like the one we've just been through with the fleet carriers. I mean, we all see what's happening, like all the posts that we post to the live streams and the feedback in the forum threads and all that stuff. But I assume there must be a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, and that's kind of the topic of today's chat. So I want to go back and start at the live stream on the 2nd of April. This was the pre-recorded live stream where fleet carriers was first shown to the public. As said, of course, with the pandemic, it was pre-recorded, but I assume that was a change of plans. You originally wanted to have it a live stream, or was it intended all along to be pre-recorded?
Yeah, so with all of our kind of releases, like the updates that have came out previously, we've always tried to do a live stream of the content reveal, and the reason for that is we want to make sure that we can have engagement with the audience whilst it's happening, so that we can ask any developers any questions, and we can kind of get the feel of the way the stream's going and what the kind of understanding is. So if we're going through it and there's a lot of questions about something, we know that we can focus on that a wee bit more as the stream goes by. But throughout the time with the fleet carriers, obviously they were starting to get news of the COVID-19 outbreak and pandemic and the possible lockdown of areas in situ. We actually started working from home quite early on before it was official, just to test it out and make sure that we could still perform in the same way at home as we did in the office. For our live streams, we have an amazing setup where we like to use the couches and get the developers on. But as the time grew closer and closer, we noticed that it might not be possible, and we wanted to prepare for that. Normally, we do try and have a run through for the live stream where we get any of our guests on, and we sit and we make sure that we hit the kind of key beats and make sure that we everybody's like on board and understanding of the situation, and also that they're relaxed and they know that it's a really safe environment to kind of be themselves. So we just decided this time to make sure that we did it a wee bit earlier, did the rehearsal a wee bit earlier, and then if the worst case scenarios, if we couldn't do the live stream, we had this backup footage, which was just end up what we had to do. So it was kind of a change of plan.
Yeah,
but we're always trying to prepare for a scenario like this. Many things could happen, but yeah, it was kind of a change in plan, as we prefer live streams, but we still think that the pre-record had done really well, and we were amazed with the positive response and the fact that we had a lot more control when we were all in the chat, which was really nice.
Great. So what we actually saw that live stream was actually the rehearsal pre-record, the rehearsal recording before that was what was supposed to be the live stream.
Yeah, technically it was, but we also at that time knew it could have been live.
Yeah.
So I think we did like 3 takes of that same one, which obviously goes past the rehearsal. But at the start, it was we were like, right, we'll use this as a rehearsal. It's a really good space, but we'll record it. And then Bruce had came in and he was recording on the decks, the system, getting it all together, and we had the guys in for like the full day, and we just focused on that, and we did a great job. I messed up quite a lot the intro actually, quite a few times, which was good. So we did it about 3 times.
Yeah.
Well, the intro took a few takes, but Steven's being far too modest. He's generally the guy who puts the streams together. He does a very good job. So he was responsible for the scripting. He says I was behind the cameras and doing the producing and stuff, but really he showed me how to do it. He's sort of the mastermind behind. Well, he knows his sound engineering and his camera control and stuff. So he showed me all of that. Did what I think was a really good job of putting that together.
Thank you very much, Chris.
It worked quite well. I mean, a real live stream is of course always preferred, but given the circumstances, I think it was a really good alternative. So, I mean, fleet carrier is of course a huge, complicated thing, and you can only show that much in a live stream without it being like half a day. So I assume there must have been a ton of questions and feedback that came in after the live stream. Can you try to talk us through the workflow? Like, what happens? How does a comment made on YouTube or on the forum or on Twitter or anywhere, how does it go from some feedback posted on social media to a change actually made in the game?
So yeah, with the feedback, as soon as we've released the content review and gone through that, we then monitor the situation and see what questions arise originally, and then after a set amount of time, so we'd give it like a couple of hours, we'll then start pulling all of that information together and all the questions and all the feedback of what everybody's been looking into and try and answer them if we can at that moment. If not, we then take a note of that question to pass to the dev team. And what we're really lucky with is we have a very open, very hands-on development team when it comes to the community, who were constantly monitoring the questions with us, and they were taking time out of their schedule to make sure that they were available to answer anything and to answer it in the best of their ability. Then what we do is the most important part, which a lot of people I don't always think understand, is that we never just react to a question, especially an important question. We'll make sure that we're given the correct answer. We'll make sure that it's going to be perceived in the correct way, and we'll make sure that we do it in a way that fits the response of giving information in the correct manner, but also making sure that it covers, because a lot of people will come in and they'll ask the same question, maybe 3-4 pages down on a forum or 10 comments down, and we want to make sure that that question isn't just solely to one individual, it's to everybody, because it's quite similar questions that are coming through. So we always take our time and make sure that we've put the right word in and make sure that we're giving the correct message, and then we respond. And we've done it in different ways. Previously, I think when I first started, it was the September update I was there for, and we made sure that we did like a big response thread because there was a lot of questions. And then this time we were a bit more, let's get that question, see if we can get the answer to it and get it out, and taking a list of that down.
So there were 7 days between the announcement live stream or the showcase live stream and the beta 1 going live, where all the PC commanders got a chance to go in and have a go at fleet carriers. Did you have any changes that were made in the time, or was this a case of we're going quote unquote live with what we have, and then we will make changes later?
Yes, that's really interesting because it's more about the process of developing a game. So we have different cut-off periods for the beta, and what we were showing for the content reveal was hopefully what we intended to go live. That's what we wanted to do it with. The only tweaks that were made were some numbering, some certain numbering for like costs and variables.
Yeah. Okay.
So obviously that being the original vision, after we got responses, that's when we knew, good, we'll implement this, we'll see how that reacts in the beta along with the feedback that we've got. And while that happens, the development team are still working on that, but the beta doesn't change that much from when we do a content review, because that's what we're showing to the audience, unless it was a really big issue that the game was broken. The main focus from that is then to make sure that it works in the system so that everybody can kind of get a hands-on with it.
Yeah.
So there's not too many changes. It's more tweaks to see how it goes in and what we go into, and then it also depends on what we want from the beta. For instance, the first beta was a real focus on how it would look in the live game, to give us a kind of stress test on what would actually happen with the amount of people who could purchase a fleet carrier and use a fleet carrier. And we really wanted to test, I mean, it was a really big important for us to test visitors on a fleet carrier as well. So they were the two main focus for the first beta. And then on the second beta, obviously towards the end of the last week, we introduced the beta blowout, because at that point we'd got a lot of our testing on what could have been done live in the game. We got amazing feedback, and even in the first beta we made a bunch of changes. So the second one, it was just more important to give everybody a chance to experience it and to see what would happen if they tried to overflow a system with
Yeah, exactly. That was one of the things I really like about the blowout, that both it's a nice gesture to all the people who may not have the credits yet, but wants to try and get it on the live server. They can get their hands on it. But also it must have been a really good stress test of like how far can you push this before it breaks down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we always say we try and break the game before we make it.
Yeah, exactly. That's why beta tester there after all. So let's run through the whole beta period now that we are already talking about it. What does a typical day, as a community manager, look like doing a beta test, or just in general? I mean, we already talked about some of it, but I assume it's a lot more than making forum posts and managing a Twitter account.
Sure, I can take this one if we like. So CM is quite a varied role. Whenever I'm talking about CM, say to a family member or maybe someone who might not know what they do exactly, I tell them fundamentally we're trying to be the link between the player base and the studio in both directions, right? So in the case of feedback gathering that we were sort of talking about earlier, it would be making sure that the players' sort of desires and needs are communicated to the studio and the development team. And in the other direction, it's making sure that the points that the development team want made get across in the right way to the player base in any of the comms that we put out. It's very difficult to give an example of an average day, given that it's such a varied role. It's very much a job where you'll be jumping from project to project sort of constantly. So you might not even have something completely finished before you have to jump to the next thing and then come back to it later. But to give you an idea of some of the regular duties, so sentiment reporting is one thing where we get a sort of a scan of the various social channels, Discord, Reddit, all of the places where players are talking and having conversations about the state of the game, recent update or development, and we just basically check in on where they're at and report that back to the studio, see what's popular, what's not popular, and how we might react. Then there'll be campaign planning. So for fleet carriers, for example, Stephen would have, Stephen did take lead on this one. He sort of planned out, okay, so we know fleet carriers are coming out. We need to organize the content reveal stream, any other streams that we're doing. These are the social posts that we want. Do we want to run like a competition or anything like that? Just scheduling everything in to make sure we can build and maintain as much hype as possible for any given release. And then also it's just the general like communication, writing, forum posts, social posts, that kind of thing. Yeah. It's really the bulk of it.
So now that we're talking about like managing feedback, during the first part of the first beta, I think the first week, there was a lot of focus on the upkeep, which of course can be a good thing, but I kind of feel like it overshadowed everything else to a point where I think it was difficult to have a discussion anywhere about anything else than the upkeep. Was this intended just to get really focused feedback on that one aspect of the fleet carriers?
To clarify, it wasn't intended. I think I understand what we're poking at here, which is the idea that numbers were deliberately overshot so as to manage expectations and get maybe a clear idea of what the numbers should be exactly. Mm-hmm. That's not the case. So the initial release of the initial form that appeared in beta 1 was sort of the intended form, as Stephen alluded to earlier. But it was sort of the strength of the reaction that made us think, okay, actually we do need to retweak and actually quite well, not tweak, but drastically rebalance these numbers.
80% is quite a tweak, yeah.
Yeah, it was a massive pullback. But yeah, we're just thankful that we had the flexibility to make a change that big. I know some players were maybe a bit more skeptical that we would make adjustments on that scale. But yeah, we wanted to do something proportionate to the feeling that they were off. But yeah, the short answer is it wasn't intended as like a sort of overshooting kind of stunt.
No. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It was it's really important to say that we have a fantastic development team who actually pull numbers when they're obviously making new changes and introducing such a feature. And what's really important to note is that I mean, you start looking at the numbers and you go, they're quite huge, but then in relation and scale to the ability to purchase a fleet carrier and to have those funds, we actually had a lot of feedback that said that Upkeep was good for people who could afford it. But it's always important to, like you said at the start of your question, did you want to get the feedback on that? 100%. Not only we didn't intend it to be the main focus, but we definitely wanted feedback on every aspect of fleet carriers, and it was important to see how that would be perceived and used in the live game. And we got exactly what we needed. We had fantastic responses that were focused not on. There was a lot of people who were upset with the amount, how high it was. There was a lot of people who were actually really okay with it, but we actually got a really great constructive criticism on what people think it should be and how it could work with them a wee bit better, even though they could afford a fleet carrier, or if they couldn't, what they would like to see when they did get a fleet carrier. So yeah, it was always good to get the feedback. That was definitely important. But yeah, it wasn't intended to be super high or anything.
But I think it was great to see that yeah, you guys listened to the feedback and a massive change was made. There will still be people who are skeptical about it, but you can't please everybody, I guess.
That's certainly true. We try our best though.
Yeah. So we just have a few days until the launch of Fleet Carriers on the 9th of June. And I appreciate if you probably can't share a lot of this right now, but do you have any further changes apart from the ones that were already announced that are going to be made to Fleet Carriers?
Yeah, so we've obviously, after all the feedback and the original feedback from Beta 1, we've made substantial changes to fleet carriers to make them what they are today. But what we have announced just now is just some of the changes that have came through from that process. I know there's a lot of people asking for a lot more and different things, but as always, we'll be providing the patch notes and an update to the content when it comes closer to the release. And obviously, we can't really talk about any of that at this moment. We'll just have to say you'll have to wait and see. We'll be hopefully posting the patch notes along with the update and having a content review live stream where we'll kind of go through all of that stuff.
Yeah, and hopefully, I mean, after it launched, it's not like it's going to be done deal, never going to touch it again, that it's going to be a dynamic thing that can be altered or added upon later on down the road, if you guys feel like it.
Yeah, so basically, it's along with most of most features that ever come to a game. It all becomes with time and management with the title. So obviously, Fleet Carriers has been a big focus for a while. And now we're moving on to the next era. That's the kind of focus for us together. But we do not work in the basis of implementing a feature and then running away from it. We will implement the feature and then continue to gather information from that. And what's amazing about our community is how vocal it is. For instance, the DSSA event that will be going on as soon as Fleet Carriers are released is just absolutely phenomenal, and we want to. It gives us a really good platform to see where they're going. So if we have a bunch of people there going, this doesn't work well, this works better, we're struggling to do this, we're struggling to do that, as community managers, it's really important to us to make sure that we do pass that to the development team. And then we try and negotiate and discuss when the best time, the best way, the thing that works for the project to be implemented, because there's a lot of variables to a game, and when you can introduce things, any game developer you will ask, they will tell you that they would love the ability to just fix parts and add other parts in and create parts on the whim, to make the game to a certain point, but sometimes it just doesn't come with bandwidth. So for instance, like people said, they thought a couple more changes would be coming in after the second beta. We didn't have the bandwidth at the time to do that, but that doesn't say that we're not going to do that in the future.
No, good to hear. One thing's for sure, I'm pretty happy with the state that the Fleet Carrier went in beta 2, and if that's what launches, then I'll be pretty happy, and definitely looking forward to getting my hands on the live server here on the 9th.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. Like we said, it's been quite some time getting through this process, and we've been really. We do understand, and we appreciate the community's patience and their passion for this, and it just builds up more and more. I think I've seen a few comments when people say to us like, you can see it on Stephen's face, you can see it on Bruce's face. They really want to tell us something,
Yeah.
and we do. That's like one of the most exciting parts about our jobs, but we want to do it right. So this is the time, and we've been so excited to bring Fleet Carriers, and again, we can't thank everybody enough for the great feedback that they gave us in the beta. And again, it's a good reminder, never worry about being vocal with us and speaking to us and communicating with us, as long as it's constructive, of course, but we are always happy to receive that, and we're always really grateful when we do.
Great. Stephen, Bruce, thanks a lot to both of you for taking the time to have this little chat with me. And I'm very much looking forward to both the Fleet Carriers and the next era update, where that comes out. At the beginning of next year, I believe it's scheduled right now.
Yes, so currently it's early 2021. I think it's the most specific we can be at the moment. But yes.
Yeah, and again, with everybody asking, we want to hear. It's another thing, like I've just said, we cannot wait to share with you. We are so excited to see what you think, and again, we're really looking forward to it, and we hope that you are too.
I definitely am. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you for having us.